On the coldest morning in the village of Nandpur, a man who owned almost nothing was heard laughing so loudly that even the dogs stopped barking. His name was Karim, and he lived in a crooked little mud house at the edge of the river, with a roof that leaked when the rain remembered to fall, and a goat that ate anything except responsibility. The villagers knew him well. They knew his torn shawl, his empty pockets, and his strange habit of whistling while carrying firewood that was heavier than his future. What they could not understand was this: why did a man with so many troubles look more peaceful than the landlord with 10 rooms and a chest full of coins? Every morning, Karim would walk to the market, greet the baker, tease the fish seller, and say, "A smiling face is a free lantern in the dark." The baker would laugh, the fish seller would snort, and even the old stray dog near the well would wag his tail as if it understood the wisdom. But not everyone was amused. In the same village lived Munir, a wealthy merchant whose house had polished floors, silver spoons, and a temper so polished it could cut bread from across the room. Munir had everything money could buy except sleep. He complained about the heat in summer, the cold in winter, the dust in the wind, the noise of the birds, the silence of the birds, and once even complained that his tea was too hot while he was drinking it in a desert-like mood of tragedy. One day, Munir saw Karim sitting under a neem tree, eating a dry piece of bread with the happiness of a king at a feast. Munir frowned. "Karim," he said, "you are poor, your house leaks, your clothes are old, your donkey is uglier than a broken cart, and yet you laugh as though life has given you a treasure chest. Tell me your secret. If I had your peace, I would sell my carpets for it." Karim wiped his hands on his knees and smiled. "Peace is not sold in the market, brother. It grows in the heart." Munir snorted. "That sounds like something a poet says when he is hungry." "Perhaps," said Karim, "but a hungry man can still be wise." Munir was not convinced. He watched Karim for days. He saw him lose a basket of tomatoes to a goat, get splashed by a cart, and find only 3 coins in his pocket after a long day. Yet Karim still laughed. When his neighbor's child broke a clay pot, Karim said, "Good, now the potter has work, and the child has learned that gravity is more loyal than friends." The village laughed, even the child who had expected a beating and received a lesson instead. Munir could not bear it. He thought happiness must be hiding somewhere in money, comfort, or some secret Karim had stolen from the gods. So Munir invited Karim to his grand house, determined to show him the proper life. He gave Karim silk cushions, sweet dates, cool water, and a room that looked over the garden. "Now," said Munir proudly, "tell me if you are not happier here than in your broken hut." Karim sat politely, ate one date, and looked around. "Beautiful house," he said. "Yes? Very clean, of course, and very quiet." Munir smiled. "Exactly. This is what happiness looks like." Karim nodded and said, "Then why are you pacing like a goat in a thunderstorm?" Munir stopped. He had been pacing without noticing. "Because," he said, then hesitated, "because my workers are late, my neighbor owes me money, my son disobeys me, and the tax collector is coming tomorrow." Karim chuckled softly. "Ah, so the palace is not free from trouble after all." Munir crossed his arms. "Trouble is different from happiness. You can be troubled in a palace and happy in a hut, I suppose, but I still do not understand how." Karim leaned back and spoke like a man who had learned from rain, not books. "Let me tell you something. A river can run through a gold bowl and still be thirsty if the bowl is cracked. A man can sit in a mansion and still starve if his heart is always asking for more. Happiness is not in what enters your hand, it is how your hand opens. Munir frowned. That sounds like another poet's trick. Kareem grinned. Then let me give you a farmer's trick. When I wake up, I look at what I have, not what I lack. I have a breath, 2 legs, 1 stubborn goat, and the chance to be kind. That is enough to begin the day. If my roof leaks, I fix it. If my stomach is empty, I fill it. If my heart feels heavy, I lighten it with gratitude. A cheerful heart makes even a small meal taste like a feast. Munir laughed unwillingly. That is easy for you to say. You have little to lose. Kareem's eyes softened. Ah, but that is where you are mistaken. I have lost many things. My wife died when my daughter was small. My field flooded one year. My brother never returned from the city. I have known days when grief sat beside me like a silent guest. But I learned something the hard way. Sadness may visit, but it does not have to move in. Pain can knock at the door. You still choose whether to let it take your whole house. Those words landed quietly like a stone dropped into deep water. Munir went silent. For the first time in his life, he had nothing clever to say. That evening, while the 2 men sat in the garden, a servant rushed in carrying bad news. One of Munir's granaries had caught fire from a lantern left too close to dry straw. The flames were not huge, but enough to cause panic. Servants shouted, guards ran. Munir turned pale. All his wealth seemed to dance in orange light. He grabbed his head and cried, "My grain! My profit! My future!" Kareem stood up immediately. "Fetch water! Wake the neighbors! Move the sacks that are safe! And stop shouting as if the fire can hear your fear!" Munir blinked. "How can you be calm now?" Kareem smiled, half serious, half teasing. "Because fire is fire. Screaming at it will not make it useful." They worked together. Even Munir, in his silk slippers, carried buckets of water until his hands shook. The fire was put out before it could destroy everything, but a corner of the granary was burned, and part of the grain was ruined. Munir sat on the ground, breathing hard, covered in ash. He expected Kareem to say something magical. Instead, Kareem handed him a cup of water and sat beside him. Munir stared at the blackened wall. "I lost enough today to make me miserable for a year." Kareem looked at him kindly. "Or enough to make you wiser for a lifetime." Munir gave a tired laugh. "That speaks as if wisdom grows in ashes." "It does," Kareem said. "Sometimes the flower of a happy life grows in burned soil, not because the soil is pretty, but because the heart learns to plant again." Munir lowered his head. For the first time, he understood. He had spent years waiting for life to become perfect before allowing himself to feel peaceful. Kareem had been waiting for nothing. He made peace from the tools he had in his hands: gratitude, humor, patience, and courage. Not one of these had come from a market. They were choices. The next morning, Munir found Kareem near the river, feeding crumbs to the stray dog and talking to the goat as if it were a respected elder. Munir smiled, truly smiled this time, and said, "Kareem, I think I finally understand your secret." Kareem raised one eyebrow. "Careful, secrets become cheaper when they are understood." Munir laughed. "No, listen. Happiness is not waiting for life to be easy. It is choosing to stand upright, even when life is difficult." Kareem nodded. "Now you are speaking like a man who has finally met himself." And from that day onward, the richest man in the village became less rich in complaint and more rich in peace. He still had troubles, because trouble is a stubborn guest that visits every house, but he no longer let it own him. He learned to smile at small things, to breathe before reacting, to be thankful before demanding, and to remember that a grateful heart is a strong heart. As for Kareem, he remained the same, poor in coin, rich in spirit, and impossible to defeat with bad weather. People still tell that old tale in Nandpur. They say the secret of happiness was never hidden in the merchant's silver, nor in the leaking hut, nor even in the fire-blackened granary. It lived in the choice to see life with a wise heart. For the world will always offer storms, but the soul decides whether to become a shelter or a wreck.